The airlock doors opened with a soft hiss. Ha-Jun stepped onto Zenith Station and immediately felt thousands of eyes turned toward him. Or at least he felt the attention of thousands of beings, many of whom did not have eyes in any way a human would recognize. He was not alone. Beside him walked two creatures that made every alien in the diplomatic hub freeze in terror. Barum moved on his left, a massive six-legged predator covered in bronze scales that gleamed under the station lights. Hanel walked on his right, slightly smaller but no less dangerous, her amber eyes scanning the crowd with sharp intelligence. The alarm started 3 seconds later. Red lights flashed throughout the station. A loud warning voice spoke in multiple languages. Guards rushed forward from every direction, their weapons raised and glowing with deadly energy. The crowd of diplomats and traders scattered like frightened birds. Ha-Jun raised his hands slowly, palms out. He spoke in a calm voice even though his heart was beating fast. He had expected this reaction, but it was still frightening to see so many weapons pointed at him. "It is okay," he said. "They are with me. They will not hurt anyone." A tall insect-like creature pushed through the guards. Its body was covered in hard black shells and its forearms gestured sharply. This was High Arbiter Thexler, the leader of the Galactic Council. When it spoke, its voice clicked and buzzed, but the translation device made the words clear. "Those are Krelvar predators, Death World creatures. They are classified as level 5 threats." "What madness is this?" Ambassador Chomi Young hurried forward. She was a small woman with silver hair, dressed in formal Earth diplomatic clothes. Her face showed worry, but her voice remained professional. "High Arbiter, please. Let me explain." "These creatures are dangerous," another council member shouted. This one was reptilian, with green scales and yellow eyes that showed pure fear. "Krelvar predators have destroyed entire colonies. They cannot be controlled. They should not be here." Ha-Jun felt Barum tense beside him. The big male predator sensed the fear and aggression in the air. His claws, which had been retracted, began to slide out. His scales shifted color slightly, becoming darker, a threat display. Hanul also responded to the tension. She lowered her body closer to the ground, ready to spring. A low rumble came from her chest, too deep for human ears but felt through the floor. The guards raised their weapons higher. Some of the aliens began backing away. The situation was about to explode into violence. Ha-Jun moved smoothly and carefully. He placed one hand on Barum's broad shoulder. His other hand touched the side of Hanul's neck. He did not grab or pull. He simply made contact, gentle and firm at the same time. "Barum. Hanul. Calm," he said quietly in Korean. Then he added a specific sound, a soft clicking noise he had taught them meant safety. The change was immediate and shocking. Barum's claws retracted. His scales shifted back to their normal bronze color. The big predator sat down on his haunches, his tail curling around his body. Hanul did the same, settling beside Ha-Jun with her ears forward in a relaxed position. Both predators were still watching the crowd carefully, but they were no longer threatening. They sat quietly beside the human, looking almost peaceful. The silence in the station was complete. Every being present stared at the scene with disbelief. Krelvar predators did not sit quietly. They did not obey commands. They certainly did not show calm behavior in the middle of a threatening situation. "High Arbiter." Thexler's antennae twitched rapidly, a sign of deep confusion, the insect being moved closer but carefully, staying behind the line of guards. "This is impossible," Thexler said. "Krelvar predators are solitary. They attack members of their own species. They have never been observed showing submission or pack behavior. What have you done to them?" Ha-Jun smiled slightly. It was not a proud smile, just a tired one. He had been traveling for weeks to reach this station. He had prepared for this moment, practiced what he would say. But now that he was here, he found the simple truth worked best. "I raised them from cubs," he said. "They trust me. I trust them. That is all." "That is not all," the reptilian council member hissed. "Trust does not exist between prey and predator. You must have used drugs or technology or some kind of mind control." Ambassador Cho stepped forward again. She held up a data device. "We have brought complete records. Medical scans, behavioral observations, everything. There are no drugs or technology involved. What you see is a natural bond between human and predator." "Natural?" Thexler's voice rose. "There is nothing natural about this. Humans have been in space for barely 60 years. How can you claim to understand creatures that have threatened galactic civilization for thousands of years? Hajun knew this was the key moment. He had to make them understand, or humanity's application for full council membership would fail. He took a slow breath and spoke clearly. On Earth, we have lived with predators for millions of years. We learned to understand them because we had to. We are not prey animals. We are also predators from a death world. We learned to recognize intelligence in creatures that could kill us. We learned to communicate with them, to form partnerships. This is not new for humans. This is what we have always done. He reached down and scratched behind Baram's ear ridge the way the big predator liked. Baram leaned into the touch, making a soft rumbling sound of pleasure. It was such a simple gesture, so casual, but it showed more than words ever could. An older council member spoke up. This one was a floating gas being that looked like colored mist held in a containment field. Its voice was like wind through pipes. Perhaps we should not be so quick to judge. Earth is classified as a Class 7 death world. Humans evolved in an environment as dangerous as Krelvar. Maybe they are not controlling these predators. Maybe they are speaking a language we do not know. Thexler turned to face the gas being. The High Arbiter seemed angry, but also thoughtful. Finally, the insect leader spoke to Ambassador Cho. Very well. We will hear your presentation. But there are conditions. The predators must be placed in secure containment. The human must submit to psychological evaluation, and security will remain at maximum level. If there is any sign of danger, we will respond with lethal force. Do you accept these terms? Ambassador Cho looked at Ha-Jun. He nodded slightly. This was expected. They had planned for this. The containment facility was built for the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. The walls were 3 meters thick, made from reinforced metal that could survive a nuclear blast. Energy shields hummed constantly, ready to activate at the first sign of trouble. Automated weapons tracked every movement inside the cells. Baram and Hunnel sat inside one of these cells, looking calm but watchful. Ha-Jun sat outside the energy barrier, cross-legged on the floor. He was not allowed inside with them, but he stayed as close as the guards would permit. The facility director, an amphibian named Korval, watched from the control room. His skin kept changing colors, a sign of his nervousness. He had never seen Krelvar predators act this way. They should be trying to escape. They should be attacking the barriers. Instead, they just sat there, occasionally looking at Ha-Jun as if asking him questions. Ambassador Cho entered the observation room with several council members. Among them was Vrinash, the reptilian who had shouted earlier. He still looked frightened, but now there was also curiosity in his yellow eyes. How long have you had these creatures? Vrinash asked Ha-Jun through the communication system. 3 Earth years, Ha-Jun replied, since they were newborns. Tell us the story, another voice said. This was Whisper of Storms, the gas being. How did this bond begin? Ha-Jun closed his eyes for a moment, remembering. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. I was part of a research mission to Krelvar. We were there to study the planet's ecology, to add information to the galactic database. It was my first mission off Earth. I was excited but also scared. Krelvar is a dangerous world. He opened his eyes and looked at Baram and Hunnel. They were watching him, as if they knew he was talking about them. One day, a massive electrical storm hit our research area. Lightning was striking everywhere. The storm was so violent that we had to stay inside our shelter. When it finally passed, I went out to check our equipment. Ha-Jun paused, the memory still painful even after 3 years. I found them next to their mother's body. She had been struck by lightning. She was dead. Baram and Hunnel were just hours old, still wet from birth. They were making small crying sounds, trying to find warmth. Vrinash made a hissing sound. You should have left them. That is the protocol. Do not interfere with Death World ecosystems. I know the protocol, Ha-Jun said, but I could not do it. On Earth, I worked in wildlife rehabilitation. I raised orphaned animals, wolves, bears, big cats. When I saw those cubs, I saw helpless babies who would die without help. I could not walk away. Ambassador Cho added more information. Ha-Jun broke protocol, yes, but he also documented everything. We have complete records from the first day. She activated a holographic display. Images appeared showing tiny Krelvar cubs, each no bigger than a human hand. They looked helpless, their scales still soft, their eyes barely open. For the first month, I fed them every 3 hours. Ha-Jun continued. They needed special milk formula. They needed warmth. They needed touch. On Earth, we know that young mammals need physical contact to develop properly. I did not know if Krelvar were the same, but I tried anyway. The holographic display changed, showing Hajun holding the cubs, feeding them, sleeping with them curled against his chest. The council members watched in silence. They grew fast. By 2 months, they were already as big as Earth dogs. That is when I started teaching them. Simple things at first. Their names, basic commands, how to play without hurting me. The display showed young Baram and Hanul learning to respond to sounds and gestures. They made mistakes. Sometimes they played too rough. But Hajun was always patient, always gentle. At 3 months, something interesting happened. They started teaching each other. Baram learned something from me, then showed Hanul. They developed their own communication, their own relationship. They became a pack. Whisper of Storm spoke again. And they bonded to you? Not to other predators. Yes, I am their pack leader. They see me as family, but they also see each other as family. The bond is not just between human and predator. It is between all of us. Vrinash was shaking his head. This makes no sense. Krelvar predators are solitary hunters. They attack their own kind. How can they form a pack? Hajun smiled. That is what I thought too at first. But then I realized something. Maybe Krelvar predators are solitary because their world makes them that way. Their planet is harsh. Food is scarce. Every predator competes with every other predator. But what if they were raised differently? What if they had enough food, enough safety, enough love? He stood up and walked closer to the energy barrier. Inside, Baram and Hanul moved to meet him, pressing their bodies against the invisible wall. On Earth, we have an animal called a wolf. Thousands of years ago, wolves were dangerous predators that attacked humans. But some wolves started living near human camps. They ate our garbage. They helped us hunt. Over many generations, they became dogs. They are still predators. They still have wolf instincts. But they are also our friends. Another council member spoke up, a bird-like creature with colorful feathers. You are saying you turned Krelvar predators into pets? No, Hajun said firmly. They are not pets. Pets are animals we control. Baram and Hanul are partners. They choose to stay with me. They could leave if they wanted. They are still predators. They are still dangerous. But they are also intelligent, and they care about me the way I care about them. As if to prove his point, Baram made a specific sound, a series of clicks and low rumbles. Hajun immediately understood. He is asking when he can come out. Hajun translated. He does not like being separated from Hanul and me. Korval, the facility director, spoke up nervously. How can you possibly know what that sound means? I taught them to use specific sounds to communicate. It took months, but they learned. They have sounds for hungry, thirsty, playful, scared, happy. They can tell me what they need. Ambassador Cho brought up another holographic display. This one showed brain scans of Baram and Hanul compared to wild Krelvar predators. Look at these scans, she said. Wild Krelvar have very simple brain structures in the areas related to social bonding. But Baram and Hanul have developed new neural pathways. Their brains have grown and changed because of their relationship with Hajun. The council members looked at each other. This was not what they expected. They thought Hajun had somehow controlled the predators, but the evidence showed something different. The predators had actually become more intelligent because of the bond. Whisper of Storms floated closer to the viewing window. I think I understand now. You are not taming them. You are raising them. You are helping them become more than they would be in the wild. Yes, Hajun said. That is exactly right. In the wild, Krelvar predators are dangerous but limited. With proper raising, they can be dangerous and intelligent and loyal. They do not lose what they are. They become more. Vrinash was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. This is the most frightening and amazing thing I have ever seen. If humans can do this with Krelvar predators, what else might they do? What other Death World creatures could they bond with? Nobody had an answer to that question. That night, Hajun slept on the floor outside the containment cell. The guards tried to make him leave, but Ambassador Cho convinced them to let him stay. Inside the cell, Baram and Hanul curled up against the barrier, as close to Hajun as they could get. Before he fell asleep, Hajun spoke softly to them in Korean. Tomorrow we show them. Tomorrow they understand. Sleep well, my friends. Both predators made soft, rumbling sounds. In the control room, Korval checked the translation. The sounds meant, we trust you. The Grand Council chamber was filled to capacity. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy watched either in person or through holographic feeds. This was the most important hearing in recent history. The question was simple but profound. Could humanity be trusted with full council membership when they possessed the ability to bond with Deathworld predators? Hajun stood in the center of the massive chamber. Beside him, Bahram and Hanul wore special harnesses with translation collars. The predators had grown overnight, it seemed. They were now massive creatures, each weighing 200 kilograms of muscle, scale, and claw. High Arbiter Thexler addressed the assembly. The insect leader's voice echoed through the chamber. We are here to witness a demonstration. The human Hajun claims to have formed a genuine bond with 2 Krelvar predators. If this claim is true, it changes our understanding of what is possible. If it is false or if the creatures pose any threat, we will take immediate action. Let the demonstration begin. Hajun took a deep breath. He had practiced this many times, but never in front of so many witnesses. Never with so much depending on it. I will start with simple commands, he said. His voice was calm and clear, carried by the chamber's sound system to every corner. He spoke in Korean, giving Bahram and Hanul a series of instructions. Sit, stand, move left, move right, turn around. The predators responded immediately to each command, their movements precise and confident. The crowd murmured. It was impressive, but it could still be trained behavior. Animals could be trained to follow commands without truly understanding them. Hajun knew this. He moved to the next phase. Now I will show you their intelligence, he said. Council staff brought out several puzzle boxes. These were standard intelligence tests used for evaluating animal cognition across the galaxy. The boxes contained food rewards locked behind various mechanisms, sliding panels, rotating discs, sequential buttons. Hajun placed the first box in front of Bahram. The male predator examined it carefully, his amber eyes tracking every detail. Then methodically he began solving it. He slid one panel aside, rotated a disc, and pressed a button. The box opened. The crowd reacted with surprise. Wild Krelvar predators had been tested with similar puzzles before. They usually gave up quickly or tried to smash the boxes open with brute force. Hajun gave Hanul a more complex puzzle. This one required cooperation. There were 2 boxes that needed to be opened simultaneously. Hanul looked at it, then looked at Bahram. She made a specific sound. Bahram came over immediately. The 2 predators examined both boxes. Then, without any command from Hajun, they worked together. Bahram held down a pressure plate on one box while Hanul operated the mechanism on the other. Both boxes opened at the same time. The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. That was not trained behavior. That was problem solving. That was communication. That was intelligence. Vrinash stood up. Impressive, yes. But this still does not prove genuine bonding. We need to see trust. Real trust. Hot commands and puzzles. High Arbiter Thexler nodded. I propose a final test. A trust test. If the human truly believes these predators will not harm him, he should demonstrate absolute vulnerability. Ambassador Cho stepped forward quickly. High Arbiter, that is too dangerous. If something goes wrong, then we have our answer, Thexler said coldly. The predators cannot be trusted and humans should not have full council membership. But if the bond is real, there will be no danger. What say you, Hajun? Will you take this test? Every eye in the chamber focused on Hajun. The young man looked at Bahram and Hanul. Both predators were watching him with their intelligent amber eyes. I will do it, Hajun said quietly. Explain the test. Thexler's antennae twitched. You will place yourself in a position of complete submission. We will activate holographic projections of rival Krelvar predators, the only stimulus proven to trigger immediate aggression in this species. If your bond is real, they will protect you rather than respond to their instincts. Hajun nodded. He understood the risk. If Bahram and Hanul failed this test, if their instincts overrode their training, he could be seriously injured or killed. He walked to the center of the demonstration area. Slowly, he knelt down on the floor. He closed his eyes. He placed his hands flat on the ground, his head lowered. Every part of his body language said, I am defenseless. I am vulnerable. The chamber fell completely silent. The holograms activated. 3 massive Krelvar predators appeared, circling the area. They were larger than Bahram and Hanul, their scales marked with battle scars. The holograms were so realistic that some council members flinched back in fear. Bahram and Hanul reacted instantly. Their scales changed color, darkening to threat display patterns. Their claws extended with audible clicks. Low growls rumbled from their chests. But they did not attack Hajun. They did not even look at him. Instead, they moved to flank him. Bahram took position on his left, Hanul on his right. They faced outward, toward the holographic threats. Their bodies formed a protective barrier around the kneeling human. The holograms moved closer, more aggressive. The real predators tensed but held their ground. They recognized the holograms were not real, but they still maintained their protective stance. Hajun remained perfectly still, eyes closed, trusting completely. After 30 seconds, Thexler deactivated the holograms. The false predators disappeared. Bahram and Hanul immediately relaxed. Their scales returned to normal color. They turned to check on Hajun, making soft questioning sounds. Hajun opened his eyes and stood up. He touched both predators gently, reassuring them. They leaned into his touch, completely calm now. The chamber exploded with noise. Beings were shouting, arguing, exclaiming in wonder. What they had just witnessed was impossible according to everything they knew about Krelvar predators. Thexler raised one of its 4 arms for silence. Slowly the noise died down. One final demonstration, the High Arbiter said. Show us their communication abilities. Hajun nodded. He activated the translation collars. Bahram, Hanul, can you hear me? Both predators made specific sounds. The collars translated, yes, we hear. Are you comfortable here? Bahram responded with a complex series of sounds. The collar translated, not comfortable. Too many strangers. Want to leave soon? What do you think of all these people watching you? Hanul made a huffing sound that the collar translated as mild annoyance. Then she made other sounds, they afraid. We not dangerous. They not understand. The crowd was stunned into silence again. The predators were not just responding to commands. They were expressing opinions, feelings, judgments. They were having a conversation. Then something unexpected happened. The station's alarm system activated. Red lights flashed. A calm voice announced hull breach in Sector 7. Emergency evacuation protocols initiated. Panic spread through the chamber. Council members rushed toward the exits. In the confusion, a group of young delegates from various species came running in, seeking safety. They were children, essentially, separated from their guardians. One small creature, a prey species with soft fur and large eyes, stumbled and fell right in front of Bahram. The child was crying, terrified. Everyone froze. The child was within killing distance of the predator. One snap of those jaws, one swipe of those claws, and the child would be dead. Bahram lowered his massive head. He made a soft sound. The sound Hajun had taught them meant safe. Gently, carefully, he used his broad snout to nudge the child toward the group of other evacuees. Hanul moved to help, creating a protective corridor with her body. The child reached safety. The emergency was resolved quickly. It was a minor hull stress, not a real breach. But nobody forgot what they had seen. The predators had not just protected Hajun. They had protected a vulnerable stranger from a different species. They had shown empathy, compassion, and moral judgment. When order was restored, High Arbiter Thexler stood before the assembly. The insect leader looked at Hajun, then at Bahram and Hanul, then at the crowd. I have seen enough, Thexler said. The bond is real. The question now is, what do we do about it? The council chamber was in chaos after the demonstration. Some members wanted to grant humanity immediate full membership. Others demanded humanity be quarantined to their home system. The arguments grew louder and more emotional with each passing hour. Hajun sat in a private waiting room with Bahram and Hanul. Both predators were tired. The demonstrations had been stressful for them. They lay with their heads in his lap, seeking comfort. He stroked their scales gently, murmuring soft words in Korean. Ambassador Cho entered with another human. This was Nam Ji-woo, a senior researcher from Earth. He was older, with gray hair and tired eyes. He carried a data tablet filled with classified information. Hajun, we need to talk, Ji-woo said. There is something about humanity that we have not shared with the council. Something important. Hajun looked up. What do you mean? Ji-woo sat down and activated his tablet. Images appeared in the air. Charts, graphs, genetic analysis. Earth is unusual even for a death world. Our planet has experienced 5 major extinction events. Each time almost all life died, but something always survived and evolved. This created extreme evolutionary pressure. Species that survived had to be adaptable, intelligent, and cooperative. He changed the display to show human brain structure. Humans have something special in our brains. We have strong neural pathways for recognizing intelligence in other species. We can read the body language of animals. We can understand their emotions. We can form bonds across species barriers. This is not normal in the galaxy, Ambassador Cho added. Most species evolved on stable worlds. They developed civilization by avoiding predators, not by living with them. But humans evolved alongside predators. We had to understand them to survive. That understanding became part of our biology. Hajun looked down at Baram and Hanul. So what you are saying is, this is normal for humans? Any human could do what I did? Not any human, Jiwoo said. You have special training and talent. But yes, many humans could form these bonds with the right training and patience. It is in our nature. While this conversation happened, the council continued their debate. In a private session, Vrinash was making his case. Do you not see the danger? The reptilian said. If humans can bond with Krelvar predators, they can bond with anything. Imagine human soldiers with squads of Death World creatures. Imagine them forming alliances with species we have spent thousands of years avoiding. They could upset the entire balance of galactic power. Other council members nodded. One spoke up. Perhaps we should quarantine humanity. Keep them in their home system. Allow limited trade but no cultural integration. But Whisper of Storms disagreed. The old gas being floated to the center of the chamber. You are afraid of the wrong thing, it said. Humans do not tame predators. They befriend them. There is a difference. A tamed animal is controlled. A friend chooses the relationship. What we saw today was choice. The predators chose to protect Hajun. They chose to protect that child. If we punish humanity for having this ability, we punish them for being different. Is that what the council stands for? The chamber grew quiet. Whisper of Storms continued. I have been studying galactic history. Do you know what I discovered? The founding species of this council, our ancestors, they had similar abilities. Not as strong as humans, but similar. They could understand other species. They could form bonds. That is how they created the council in the first place. But over thousands of years, as our worlds became safe and comfortable, we lost those abilities. Our brains changed. We forgot how to speak to predators. This revelation shocked everyone. Ancient records were checked. Analysis was done. Whisper of Storms was right. The Council's founding species had possessed neural pathways similar to humanity's. But those pathways had atrophied over generations of peaceful civilization. High Arbiter Thexealer spoke slowly. So humans are not showing us something new. They are showing us something we forgot. Exactly, Whisper of Storms said. And perhaps we need to remember. Perhaps the galaxy needs this skill again. The debate continued for hours. Finally, Thexealer called for a decision. We will not grant immediate full membership, but we will not quarantine humanity either. Instead, I propose a compromise. Humanity will receive provisional full membership with conditions. Hajun will establish a program to teach other species these bonding techniques. If the program succeeds, if other species can learn what humans know naturally, then humanity's membership becomes permanent. Most of the council agreed to this. It was a middle path. It gave humanity a chance while also addressing the concerns of the fearful. Ambassador Cho was called to hear the decision. When she returned to the waiting room, Hajun looked up hopefully. What did they decide? He asked. Cho smiled. Provisional membership. And you have a new job. They want you to teach others how to bond with dangerous species. You will be the director of a new program called the Interspecies Bond Initiative. Hajun was stunned. Teach others? But I am not a teacher. I am just a wildlife specialist. You are the only one who can do this, Jiwoo said. You understand both sides. You understand predators and you understand people. If anyone can bridge this gap, it is you. Baram and Hanul raised their heads. They sensed Hajun's uncertainty. Both predators made soft, encouraging sounds. The translation collars activated. We help. You not alone. Hajun laughed quietly and scratched both their heads. You are right. I am not alone. Okay, I will do it. 3 days later, Hajun stood in a new facility. This was Haven's Gate, a massive station built specifically for the Interspecies Bond Initiative. The facility had hundreds of containment areas, research labs, training rooms, and living quarters. His first group of students arrived. There were 20 volunteers from different species across the galaxy. Some were scientists. Some were diplomats. Some were just curious individuals who wanted to try something new. Hajun stood before them with Baram and Hanul by his side. The predators were now fully grown, massive and impressive. But they sat calmly, demonstrating perfect control. "Welcome," Hajun said. "What you are about to learn is not easy. It requires patience. It requires trust. It requires you to be vulnerable. Many of you will fail. That is okay. Not everyone can do this, but for those who succeed, you will discover something amazing. You will learn to speak a language older than words. You will form bonds that cross the boundaries of species and evolution." He paused, looking at each student. "The first lesson is simple. Respect. The creatures you will work with are not pets. They are not tools. They are intelligent beings who deserve dignity. If you cannot respect them, you cannot bond with them. Does everyone understand?" Every student signaled agreement in their own way. Nods, gestures, color changes. Good. Then let us begin. Over the following weeks, Ha-Jun worked with his students. He brought in various creatures from death worlds. Some were predators like Baram and Hanul. Others were dangerous in different ways. Venomous, aggressive, territorial. Most students struggled. Their instincts told them to fear these creatures to maintain distance. Hajun taught them to move past fear into understanding. Some students quit. Others were asked to leave after showing they could not overcome their fear. But a few, a precious few, began to succeed. One student, a crystalline being named Bright Fracture, formed a tentative bond with a small predator from a volcanic world. It was not as strong as Hajun's bond with Baram and Hanul, but it was real. The predator trusted Bright Fracture. They communicated through simple gestures. When Hajun saw this success, he felt hope. It was possible. Others could learn. Humanity was not alone in this ability, but he also knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge was still ahead. Could these bonds survive in the real galaxy? Could they change how civilization worked? Only time would tell. 6 months had passed since the Thraxi tried to attack the settlement. The galaxy had changed in that time. News travels fast in space, and everyone heard what happened. The story spread from system to system, from species to species. The story was simple but powerful. The Thraxi Empire, feared warriors who had conquered many worlds, attacked a human settlement. They thought it would be easy because they saw only children and teachers. But they were wrong. The humans had ships hidden in the darkness. The humans had weapons beyond anything the Thraxi expected. And the humans showed the Thraxi what happens when you threaten their young. Other species listened to this story and learned. Some felt relief that the Thraxi had been stopped. Some felt fear about human military power. All of them remembered one important lesson: never threaten human children. On the settlement planet, life was peaceful. The children played in the fields. They attended their lessons. They laughed and learned and grew. They did not know that they had become famous across the galaxy. They were just being children. But there was one change. A Thraxi observer named Kryn now lived at the settlement. He was part of the peace agreement. He was there to learn about human culture and report back to his government. He was there to make sure both sides understood each other. At first, Kryn was uncomfortable. He was a warrior species living among teachers and children. He did not understand humans. They seemed weak to him. They spent time on art and music. They laughed often. They did not train for combat every day. But slowly, Kryn began to see things differently. He watched Minho teach his class. Minho was patient with the children. He answered every question. He made learning fun. But Kryn had read Minho's military record. This gentle teacher had fought in the war against the Kreth. He had destroyed enemy ships. He had saved entire colonies. He was a hero. How could the same person be both? How could someone be a fierce warrior and a kind teacher? One day, Kryn asked him. They were sitting outside watching the children play. "Teacher Minho," Kryn said, "I have read about your past. You fought in a terrible war. You killed many enemies. But now you teach children and smile all day. How can you be both things?" Minho looked at the children playing. Kira was showing another child how to draw a flower. They were laughing together. "It is not complicated," Minho said. "I fought in the war because I had to, because the Kreth were coming to hurt people like Kira. I did not enjoy fighting. I did not want to be a soldier. But I did it anyway because it was necessary. And now? Kryn asked. Now I teach because this is what I always wanted to do. This is who I really am. But if someone threatens these children, I will become a soldier again. Without hesitation. Without doubt. Because protecting them is more important than anything else. Kryn was quiet for a long time. He was beginning to understand. Humans were not warriors who happened to have children. They were parents who would become warriors when necessary. It was the opposite of what he thought. Later that week, Kira approached Kryn. She was curious about him. He looked different from any adult she had seen before. Hello, she said. You are the alien observer, right? My name is Kira. Kryn looked down at the small human. She was not afraid of him, even though he was tall and covered in scales. Yes, he said. My name is Kryn. Do you have children? Kira asked. The question surprised Kryn. No, I am a soldier. Thraxi soldiers do not have families. That is sad, Kira said. Children are nice. They make you happy. She showed him a drawing she had made. It was a picture of stars and planets. I drew this in class today. Do you want to see? Kryn looked at the drawing. It was simple but colorful, made with care by small hands. It is. Good, he said awkwardly. He did not know how to talk to children. Thank you, Kira smiled. You can keep it if you want. I can make more. She ran off to play with her friends. Kryn held the drawing carefully. Something strange happened inside him. He felt protective. This small being had given him a gift. She trusted him. She was not afraid. And suddenly he understood why humans fought so hard to protect their young. Children like Kira were not weak. They were innocent. They were full of hope and dreams and kindness. They deserved to be protected. They deserved to grow up safely. Any species that did not understand this was missing something important. That evening, Kryn sent a report back to the Thraxi High Command. He wrote, I am beginning to understand the humans. They are not weak. They have simply chosen to value life over conquest. They have chosen to build rather than destroy, and they have the strength to defend those choices. We were wrong to attack them. We were wrong about many things. On Earth, in the capital city, Chancellor Sun He was meeting with leaders from other species. They were forming a new alliance. Several smaller species had asked humans for protection. They wanted human ships watching over their colonies. They wanted their children to be as safe as human children. We cannot protect everyone, one human admiral warned. Our resources are not infinite. Sun He nodded. That is true, but we can help those who cannot help themselves. We can share our technology. We can teach others how to defend their own young ones. That is better than trying to do everything alone. And so a new program began. Humans started teaching other species about defense systems, about hidden sensors, about rapid response protocols, not to make weapons, not to start wars, but to protect children, to make sure no species had to face what the Thraxi had tried to do. The phrase protected by humans became known across the galaxy. It meant safety. It meant that children could play without fear. It meant that settlements could grow without constant worry about attack. Even the Thraxi Empire changed. Slowly, carefully, they began to think differently about their own young. They started building schools instead of just military academies. They started valuing life instead of just conquest. It would take generations to fully change, but it was a start. 5 years after the incident, Kira was now 13 years old. She was in advanced studies, learning about space engineering. She wanted to design ships someday, safe ships that would protect people. Her teacher asked the class to write an essay about an important moment in their lives. Kira thought about it carefully. Then she began to write, "The day I learned we were never alone." In her essay, she wrote about the day 5 years ago. She did not know all the details then, but she knew them now. She wrote about how scared the adults must have been, how brave Captain Hannah was, how Minho kept teaching even while monitoring the danger above, how the entire human fleet mobilized to protect one small settlement. But the most important part of her essay was at the end. She wrote, "I used to think the grown-ups watched over us because it was their job. Now I understand it is because we are worth protecting, not because we are weak, but because we are the future. They taught me that being human means never abandoning those who depend on you. Someday when I have children of my own, I will watch over them the same way. And if anyone threatens them, they will learn what the Thraxi learned, that human children sleep peacefully not because the universe is safe, but because we make it safe." The essay was chosen for a galactic writing competition. Students from hundreds of worlds submitted entries. Kira won first place. Her essay was translated into hundreds of languages. It was read by billions of beings across the galaxy. The Thraxi High Command ordered it to be taught in their schools, not as a story about their defeat, but as a lesson about what really matters, about what is truly worth fighting for. Kryn, who was still at the settlement, read the essay. He remembered the day 5 years ago when Kira had given him that drawing. He still had it carefully preserved. It reminded him of what he had learned. That strength without purpose is meaningless. That protection is more honorable than conquest. That children are not a weakness but the best reason to be strong. On the wall of Minho's classroom hung a plaque from the United Earth Systems Navy. It said, "In recognition of exemplary service protecting humanity's future." Minho was proud of it. But his favorite decoration was simpler. It was an old drawing by Kira from years ago, stick figures of children sleeping under a protective dome of stars. Every night Minho looked at that drawing before going home. It reminded him why he did this work, why he chose to teach instead of returning to military service, because this was the real battle. Raising children who would be kind, smart, and strong, children who would make the galaxy better. And every night in orbit above the planet, ships kept watch. Captain Hana had been promoted to admiral now. She commanded a larger fleet, but she often visited this system. It held special meaning for her. This was where the galaxy learned to respect human determination. The universe had learned a fundamental truth about humanity. They were not conquerors. They were not warriors seeking glory. They were gardeners, carefully tending the flowers of their civilization. And those gardens were protected by the most fierce guardians the galaxy had ever seen. Guardians who only existed because someone had once threatened the flowers they were growing. The children of the settlement played in the fields, learned in their classrooms, and slept peacefully at night. They did not know that their safety had changed the galaxy. They did not know that their peaceful lives were defended by incredible power and unwavering dedication. They were just children, and that was exactly how it should be. Because in the end, that was what made humans special. Not their weapons or their ships or their technology, but their absolute, unbreakable commitment to protecting the innocent, to making sure every child could be just a child, to turning the dangerous universe into a safe home. And the galaxy would never forget the lesson the Thraxi learned that day, that you should never mistake gentleness for weakness, that those who protect children will stop at nothing, that humanity's greatest strength was not in their military might, but in what they chose to do with that might. The stars continued to shine, the settlement continued to grow, and the children continued to dream, protected, safe, loved forever and always.